Hey there. So we're talking a little bit about data, and I want to give just a little example of how complicated this can be, or kind of what to expect when you start really digging into finding data for making the maps that you might be working on. Now, a lot of the time, the data might not be an issue, right? Like you might be working with someone who collected the data themselves, or you might be working directly with data scientists who are able to provide just the files that you give, right? Somebody who knows all this stuff, some geographer, and you can just be like, oh, I need a GeoJSON, I need a KML or a shapefile, any of them will do, and they'll just hand it over to you. But honestly, even when you're working with people who do know what they're doing and are giving you data, there's still a lot of times extra stuff in it, and you need to get used to getting in there, getting your hands dirty in the data and trying to figure out just to get what you need. So in this case, I'm just imagining that we're doing some kind of work to do with census data areas. So a lot of times this is something people ask for. They want to color the map by some kind of demographic data according to the census from the US Census or something like that. It's a really cool data set that has like a lot of potential uses, but let's go through and just imagine like we're trying to actually get this data. So in this case, we'd have to get like multiple pieces of data. We'd have to get not only the census block groups like as a bunch of polygons, like as a bunch of shapes, but we also have to get the data that we're going to be like coloring it by, right? Like, I don't know, it could be like population, or it could be like income or something like that. And so you're going to have to find that data as well. So first of all, we might just look up something like census block groups, and we learn a bit about what they are, but it doesn't really help. We have this, oh, this census.gov. It's kind of just defining stuff. Okay, here's some boundary files. Actually, that's for Canada because I'm in Canada and it's searching for that. But then I might look up census block groups boundary shapefile, right? Throw in some terms of the actual stuff we're looking for. And then we can go and we're going to find these shape files, which then, we have to figure out where in here we actually download them. Is it here, an FTP archive? What is that going to download? Now there's all these files, and like inside this, there's, what is this? We have to download all this and look at it. It doesn't really look like it's just obvious set of shapes, right? So this in itself is already complicated. And here I came across, another thing was like cartographic boundary files. Okay, here this might be more basic. There's counties, there's divisions. These aren't the census block groups, right? But here we are. Here's some block groups by states. So then we have to go around and, this looks like this is one. And we can check this on Map Shaper. So that was for, what was that, Alabama? Alabama, so we drag that in. We check it out. And yeah, okay, it looks like Alabama. Okay, we got this shapefile that is basically Alabama. It's a shapefile, so to put it on a map, we know we're going to have to change that over. We're also going to want to look at like the data that's on it, maybe minimize it a bit. Maybe we can simplify this a little, right? We can reduce this down and the data doesn't have to change too badly. Okay, so there's all that. We managed to get something of some boundaries, but then we have to figure out like what are we doing with that data that's inside it. And to do that, we have to then look for, here's populations by zip code. That's not really what we're looking for. So if we want to go into census data sets now, we have to learn the whole way that the US Census organizes data sets. And I can tell you that how it actually works is they have giant CSVs that have all these like codes to represent certain questions or certain bits of data. And then it goes by census block group. And the data files are many gigabytes in size depending on the section of the census. And so it's actually like really quite complicated. It involves a lot of data processing. But this is something that people sometimes think, oh, just put it on the map, the census block by income, and don't realize how complicated it is. Another really common thing that people are imagining is that they can give you a list of addresses and you're able to just put those on the map as a set of points. I mentioned there's this thing called geocoding, and it's just mainly to make the point that data, whenever you're working with someone or whenever you're working on your own projects, you should really be ready for the data to cause more of a headache than anyone really expects. If you have a bunch of addresses, now you're going to have to find a geocoding tool to turn those addresses into points. If the addresses are missing some information, or if they're misspelled, or if they're in a country that doesn't have very good geocoding. For instance, I have a project I'm working on these days where we're geocoding all the mosques, a bunch of mosques like around the world. And the ones that are in America have really good geocoding data because the geocoding services out there that turn addresses into points are very good for America. But the ones that are in Nigeria have a lot of trouble because not only are the addresses kind of in the CSV in a kind of not so clean way, but the address precision for geocoding in Nigeria isn't very good with the same tools. So these are just problems with data I just want to bring up, so that you're aware that when you approach your maps, the data is going to be challenging and it's going to involve messing around with it. In some of the examples that we're going to do, I'm going to try to streamline that so we don't spend ages looking for really complicated data. But in real world projects, this is a thing. This is a thing you always have to do. You always have to really advise people. You have to look at the data before you really get started so that you know what you're getting involved in. So just a bit of a tip from a longtime mapper when it comes to working with data on maps. That's it for this section. Next, we're going to get into actually building web maps. So let's have fun. See you in the next one.